Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar with the Trebas Institute. My name is Garima, and we'll start the webinar in about another 2 to 3 minutes. We just want to give everybody a chance to join the webinar and be with us today. So please be patient, another 2-3 minutes and we'll start. Thank you so much. Another thing, please feel free to go into the questions section and put in your questions. We'll try to take your questions while the webinar is being presented, or if it's a very specific case, we might get to it at the end of the webinar. So please stay with us through the duration, put in your questions, and we'll definitely answer your questions today. If you want, students, you can also put in which country you're joining us from in the chat section. It'll be nice to see, where are our students coming from and joining us from. So if you would like, you can do that as well. I see Kobena from Ghana. Thank you so much and welcome to the webinar. We have Doyen from Nigeria. Welcome. Owen from Nigeria. We have Danish Umar Khan from India. Amazing. Thank you guys and welcome. We have Martin from Malaysia. It's so nice to see students from all over the world joining us. Amazing. We have Joseph from Liberia. Christopher from Ghana. Amazing. Thank you guys. Amazing. I'll also introduce our panel so you can know us a little bit. Where are we from and how we can, work with you to help you, but just a bit. We have Madine from Rwanda. We have Juan from Chile. Nashon from Jamaica. Amazing. What diversity on our webinar. I just love this. Amazing. All right. It's about 10:04. Should we start?
Yes, Garima, we can start.
Yeah. All right. Amazing. Okay. All right. So to begin with, introductions quickly. So let me start with me. I'm Garima. I manage student recruitment for the international and domestic team at Trebas. Some of you might have emailed me, spoken to me, but this webinar is definitely a chance to, get to know us better. Next I have with me is Julian. He is from the student support. He's a student support officer, SSO team. Most of you are probably aware of Julian or our colleague Aisha. They work very closely with you when it comes to when you start the process of applying for a CAQ or a study permit. They have the wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure you guys are working closely with Julian or Aisha. And then, of course, we have Kainaz. Kainaz is our immigration partner, One Vasco, and it's a great way to ensure that you have a properly put together application submitted and you increase your chance of a study permit approval. And Kainaz will be sharing more details on her role and her team's role in the entire immigration process. Yep. All right, let's get started.
That was a lovely introduction. And it's nice to start the morning with your cheerful banter. Thank you for having me on the webinar today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Garima.
Thanks. All right, let's get started. Next slide, Julian. Okay, so very quickly, we are going to the initial part of the webinar, which I'll be covering. We'll walk quickly through it because most of you already have either an offer letter or a letter of acceptance from us. So you already know about Trebas, about the programs we offer, what kind of services do we offer, etc. But we'll quickly walk through it. Next slide, please. Okay, so Trebas was, we started back in 1979, primarily as a entertainment school, as a film school. We have 2 campuses, one in Toronto, one in Montreal. And today, in addition to the film and entertainment programs, we've established ourselves in offering programs in business and technology as well, which we will go through as we go through the slides. Next slide, please. By Montreal. So, Montreal is, it's been rated multiple times as the #1 city for international students, something that most people are not aware of. So definitely, it's reasonable in terms of cost of living. It has great opportunities. It is a very well-connected city. It's very well connected to New York, to Toronto, to Ottawa, which is the capital city. So in terms of networking opportunities, you're living in a city which is low cost of living, but you have access to these bigger cities. And in terms of why Trebas Montreal, we have excellent facilities for students. We have great labs. When we talk about our creative programs, we have studios, recording labs, etc. When we talk about our tech and business programs, we have, we've set up beautiful computer labs with all the updated programs and softwares that students need to learn these programs. Next slide, please. Right. Now, what makes us different is really some key factors like, there's little things for international students that make a huge difference. One of them is the location of the campus itself. So we are located in the heart of downtown, right opposite a subway station. So which means that commuting is easy. Even if you're living on another part of the city, it's easy to come to downtown because you can use the subway system. When you are in downtown, you have access to a lot of corporates and to part-time jobs, which are so critical for international students. Our class sizes are on purpose kept very small. You do get that intimate experience with your teacher where you have that one-on-one time and they're able to teach you more effectively. And like I mentioned, in terms of networking opportunities, in terms of the equipment and software and programs that we have at our campus, those are class apart. Next slide, please. All right. Now, one of the services that we take very seriously at Trebas is the career services. We are a private career college. So we do understand that most of our students who are coming to study at Trebas are basically coming so that they can upgrade or upskill themselves in a particular field and then go back into the industry after upskilling themselves. So right from the beginning of your tenure at Trebas, you will work closely with the career services department. We help you build your resumes. We try and create employment opportunities, internship opportunities for you. Over here, I would like to be very clear that there is an equal effort required from students, and we put in equal effort as you to create these opportunities and to make the most of them. So be aware when you come to campus, apart from your classes, make an effort to get to know who your career services person is and how can you improve your own profile to ensure that at the end of your studies, you're employed, effectively. Moving on, and this is just a slide that showcases some of the brands where our students are working and who recruit from us. Right. Now let's come and jump right into the programs that we offer. So Trebas, let's go through the creative programs first. So sound design basically is a program where you learn how to create sound for video games, for television, for film. So different, formats. Audio and video post-production is a program where you learn everything about editing, So it's post-production. That means your footage is ready. You've got hours and hours of footage. Now you got to edit it and you got to make it ready for your consumption by your audience. So you have to do editing of sound, editing of video, green screen effects, all of that comes under this. Then you have film and television production. This means while you're still producing the film, so script writing, directing, cinematography, all of that comes under this. The exciting bit is you get to end the program by producing your own web series, so which is so amazing. The practical aspect of it is absolutely great. And then we have music business administration, which is really, in today's world that we are living in, there are so many celebrities, so many influencers. They need representation. They need someone who can handle their contracts, the legal aspect. And that's what music business administration is all about, managing the celebrity's career. Moving on, the tech and business programs. You know, most of these programs are basically what the name is. So e-commerce and online business management is everything you need to know about an online business. Marketing from an online perspective, HR, logistics, customer service, the technology aspect of a business when you run it online is taught here. So it's not just digital marketing, it's every aspect of a business that you need to run online. Next is analytics, big data, and business intelligence. This is such a in-demand program. Basically today, all businesses have access to so much data and information about their customers, about the geography they are operating in. But how do you make sense of so much data? What do you do with it? How do you analyze the data so that it can help you make decisions? This is what the program teaches you. So naturally, if you have a flair to work with numbers, if you like to work with different kind of tools that help you arrange data in such a way that you can start making decisions, then this is the program for you. And lastly, we have computer security analyst. If you're passionate about security, you know, using different softwares and programs to ensure that your organization's data is secure, then this is the program. It does involve learning different kind of softwares, programs, coding, maths, analytical skills. So if you think you have that bent of mind, computer security analyst is a great program because it's so much in demand. With businesses moving online, all the three programs that you see on the screen, be it e-commerce, big data, or computer security, they're in demand 100%. Moving on. Right. Now, this is something that you all have your offer letters. You have your letter of acceptances. So you know what the scholarships are. I'm sure most of you are already aware that there are additional scholarships being offered to support international students. So go through this slide, you can read it. We'll try and share this, we will share the presentation after the end of the webinar. So you will have access to this. But yeah, you know, you can review this when we send you the PPT. Moving on, we have something very exciting, which a few of our students have already benefited from, called the Family Scholarship. So if you have a direct family member, which could be your sibling, a parent, a spouse or partner, who are looking to together study at Trebas, definitely reach out to your advisor or send an email to info@trebas.com. We'll also put in the email ID in the chat box. And learn more about the Family Scholarship, because you could benefit from it. Almost 50% off the second person's tuition fees. So this is a great scholarship that we've recently launched. Moving on, right. Now, I'm just going to give you an overview of what the process looks like, and then Julian will share more details. Typically, anybody on this webinar would at least have an offer letter. That means you have submitted your documents to Trebas. We have reviewed your documents, and the first step, which is an offer letter, has been sent to you. At this stage, when you have the offer letter, you will make the first payment. The first payment is usually $250. We also recommend paying at least 25% of your tuition fees because it helps you prove financial readiness. Julian and Kainas are the masters of CAQ and study permit, and they'll share more details as we go along. The financial aspect is a very important part of your study permit application, so we'll keep coming to this topic again and again. But for now, offer letter when you submit your application, letter of acceptance when you pay your initial tuition fees, and then comes the study permit phase. Students always ask us, oh, how long before do I start? So look, the entire process can take anything between 4 to 6 months. So depending on your country, depending on your processing time, sometimes we recommend students, even now at the beginning of February, apply for September. Don't wait. Anything could happen. Nobody predicted the pandemic. I genuinely have a student from, if I'm not wrong, he's from Cameroon. He's been approved for the study permit after 2 years. 2 years. And Julian and I have been helping him, and it's a miracle, I think, that, finally fingers crossed, we're hearing good news. So yeah, these are really the steps that all of you on the call will be at, either an offer letter, letter of acceptance, or you would have started your study permit phase. If you have none of these, you're probably at a stage where you've just made an initial inquiry. You're just starting to speak to your advisor and you haven't submitted your documents yet, which is fine. Continue the process, and I'm sure you'll land up at one of these soon. Moving on.
Hi, Garima. Guys, I'm not sure if you can hear me because there was a bit of a technical glitch here.
We can hear you. No
Okay,
worries.
great. So I can take over, Garima, from here?
Yes, please. Yes, Julian, over to you and, Kainas. Yes.
Right. Thank you so much, Garima. Thank you, Kainas. Good morning, everyone. My name is Julian Aloysius Hutton. I'm a student support officer with the Trebas team. Alongside with me, I have Aisha Sultana, who's my colleague. So we generally take care to all our students who have the letter of acceptance. And basically what we do is we right from your letter of acceptance until the time you arrive in Canada and you start your program and get enrolled, it's our job to make sure everything goes down your journey lane very smoothly. So as soon as you have your letter of acceptance, your student recruiter would send out an email introducing myself or Aisha, and we take it forward from there. You would receive a call from us or an email, and we're helping you with your CAQ application and your study permit as well. Apart from that, we also gather information from you about your CAQ, your study permit, any documents that Immigration Canada is requesting, or Immigration Quebec. You can reach out to myself or Aisha or your student recruiter, and we'll be more than happy to help you with that. Now, post receiving your CAQ approval and your study permit approval, we would also share information on about how to go ahead and get accommodation and insurance as well. So apart from that, any other additional support if you need in regards to your application, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you. All right, moving on. Now we're going to talk a little more in depth about your CAQ, which is a Quebec Acceptance Certificate, and your study permit application process. Now before you apply for your study permit, now you need to make sure that you have a new passport, or your passport or your current passport is valid at least 6 months after the day you return to your home country. Say, for example, your passport is going to expire 2 months prior to you leaving Canada. You need to make sure that you need to renew your passport and then apply for your CAQ and your study permit. Now you have your new passport. The next thing would be to gather all your supporting documents, for your visa application, which is making sure you have your letter of acceptance in place, your proof of funds, and your SOP, which is your letter of explanation, which we're going to talk about a little more in depth in the next coming slides. Now you have all the documents ready. Now the first step now would be, since you're applying for our Montreal campus, would be to apply for a Quebec Acceptance Certificate. Please do remember, the Quebec Acceptance Certificate is something, it's a requirement from the province of Quebec that you need to have an approval for you to come and study. So any international student who's traveling to Montreal to study would need to have an approval from the government of Quebec in order to study. So the study permit timeline generally takes around 3 to 8 months, the complete process. Now, as of today, when I've checked Immigration Canada's website, it shows roughly around 10 weeks for a study permit application. Now, that's only for a study permit application, and that does not include the CAQ processing time. So for a CAQ, when you apply for a CAQ, You submit all your documents. Once that is done, they take 20 working days. So Immigration Quebec, sorry, would take 20 working days for them to get back to you with an approval or a decision on your application. Post that, you can go ahead and submit your application to Immigration Canada. Now, what we recommend all our students to do is once you apply for your CAQ, you have 20 working days, for Immigration Quebec to get back to you. During that time, you can start working on your study permit application, which would save a lot of time. Start getting all your documents ready, which is your proof of funds, writing your letter, your letter of explanation or your SOP. And also, if you like to make a payment for your tuition fees, you can go ahead and do that. And we would issue you an updated letter of acceptance, which shows that you have made a significant amount of tuition fees. And that using that, you can apply for your study permit. Now, we're going to talk about a little more in depth about your CAQ application, which is how to go about applying for it. Now, once you have your letter of acceptance with you, Aisha and myself, we'll be sharing an email with the next steps on how to go about applying for CAQ and your study permit. So for CAQ, it's really simple. You just have you need 3 important documents to apply for it. The link for CAQ, which is the Immigration Quebec's website, we would be sharing that with you. So the most important documents to apply for your CAQ would be the proof of acceptance, which is your letter of acceptance from Trebas Institute. Then your proof of identity, which is your passport. And the third document it's a declaration form that needs to be signed, and it should match the same signature on your passport. Now, I know many of our students come back and say, hey, you know what? I have my letter of acceptance. I have my passport. Now, where do I get this declaration form of? So there are 2 phases or 2 steps when you apply for your CAQ. So the first step is you go to the Immigration Quebec's website, you fill in an online form. Basically, it asks you simple information about what program have you chosen, what's the duration of your program, what's the total cost of your tuition fee, and your passport information. Basically, your passport number, and then your complete name, your validity of your passport, and the most important would be any accompanying persons that are going to travel with you. Like, say for example, if you're traveling with your spouse, then you would need to mention if your spouse is going to travel with you, and would your spouse need a CAQ or not. Now, please do remember that CAQ or a Quebec acceptance certificate is only for students or anyone who's coming to Quebec to study. So if your spouse or any accompanying person is coming with you to Canada that are not going to study, they would not need a CAQ letter. Now, once you have filled in the form, the last step on the form would be to make a payment for the CAQ application. So basically, it's the fees that you pay Immigration Quebec. Now, that's going to be 120 Canadian dollars. Now, once that is done, and once you have completely, made the payment of 120 Canadian dollars, within 48 hours, you would receive your file number would get generated. Now, using that file number, you have to access another page, which is the ARIMA portal. This is the page where you would have to go ahead and upload your documents, which is the letter of acceptance, your passport, and the declaration form. Now, once you have access to the ARIMA portal, you would have the declaration form under the document section. Please do remember, take a printout of the form, fill the form, sign the form, and make sure the signature matches the signature on your passport. Then you need to scan the document and upload it back to the ARIMA portal. Okay. Now, once you have uploaded all the documents, we are good with the CAQ application. Now, it's in the hands of Immigration Quebec to give you a decision on it. Now, like I said, please do remember, make sure the signature is matching your passport. Do not do a digital signature, because that would end up with a CAQ refusal. I have many of my students that received a CAQ refusal just because of a signature mismatch. Now, I do understand it's a really simple thing about, hey, you know what, I just mismatched my signature, I can re-upload my document. However, please do remember, once you re-upload your document or the declaration form, the processing time starts all over again. So it would take another 20 days from the day your CAQ was refused. So, which is a waste of time. So please do remember and keep in mind that everything that you submit to Immigration Quebec is correct. Please feel free to reach out to myself or Aisha, and we would be more than happy to guide you on the CAQ application. One important point about CAQ or the application part of it is many of our students ask us, do I need to show proof of funds when I submit my CAQ application? It's actually not required that you need to show proof of funds. However, if you are requested, once you submit your application or the form, you would have a pre-populated checklist, and in that it would mention that you would need to show proof of funds. At that moment, you would need to submit. Else, you do not need to submit proof of funds for your CAQ application. We would, when Aisha and myself, when we share information or your next steps about your CAQ and your study permit, we would be also sharing information, step-by-step information with screenshots in a PDF document on how to go about applying for your CAQ. All right, moving on. So then the next one would be about your CAQ again. Now, many of our students, come back and say, hey, you know what? I've submitted my documents to Immigration Quebec, and it's been 20 working days, and I haven't received any update on my application. When I check my ARIMA portal, it just says, document submitted, and it says processing. Do not panic. We can always reach out to Immigration Quebec and seek for an update. But what I've noticed is many of our students have been receiving their responses within 20 working days. Only if there's a delay in your application, it could be because of a document that was missing. It could be the letter of acceptance, it could be, the passport, or it could be the declaration form. So to contact Immigration Quebec, please reach out to us. We will share you the contact information. What we request all our students to do is, it's better to reach out to Immigration Quebec via a phone call, because they do not respond to emails. All right, moving on. So we are done with the first step. So you have your CAQ approval letter. So you generally, Immigration Quebec would send you a PDF letter, a document. It should be in the ARIMA portal. So you have, once you receive that, you can go ahead and submit your study permit and your visa. So the most important documents to apply for your visa would be your proof of acceptance, which is your letter of acceptance from Trebas Institute, a proof of identity, which is your passport, proof of financial support, which is your bank statements, then your letter of explanation, which is the SOP, or basically the letter that you write to the immigration officer explaining why you have chosen Canada and why Trebas to start to complete the studies, and your Quebec acceptance certificate. Now, these are the most important documents that you need to make sure you have when you submit your application to Immigration Canada. Now, I did receive a couple of refusals, few of my students where they went ahead and applied for their study permit or their visa without applying for a CAQ, without a CAQ approval letter. And Immigration Canada refused the application, saying, hey, you know what? You do not have an approval for a Quebec acceptance certificate for you to go to Quebec and study. I cannot approve your visa. So you need to get an approval first from the Quebec, from the Ministry of Quebec, and then you need to apply to Immigration Canada. Now, the next point would be a student must be in good health and willing to complete a medical examination if necessary. Now, yes, a medical examination only if required. Immigration Canada would request for a medical examination from our students, else it's not required. Now, moving on, the next one would be a student must have no criminal record and not be at risk to Canada. Student must satisfy immigration officer that he would leave Canada upon completing their studies. Now, this point talks about basically you would ask, how would I, let an immigration officer know that I would leave Canada once I'm come to complete my studies. Now, This would be done in your letter of explanation. You would basically need to mention everything, your home ties to your country, and once you're done with your studies, that you're going to leave Canada, go back home to your home country, and start, whatever you study, you're going to implement it, and look for a job in your home country. Students must also provide enough money that they pay for their tuition fees, accommodation, and living expenses. Now, this would be your proof of financial support that you show to Immigration Canada. Now, this is the reason why what we recommend all our students is to pay, at least 25% of the tuition fee, because it shows your financial capability and your support and your commitment towards your studies and your financial support as well. So once you have done that, now your accommodation and your living expenses, you need to make sure everything, you have enough money for that as well, rather than, hey, what, I'll do a part-time job and, you know look out for my accommodation and my living expenses. That's what Immigration Canada does not want to look at. You need to show enough of funds available for your stay in Canada, for the course of your duration for your studies. All right, moving on, the next one would be key consideration of for your study permit. Now, like we were talking about the letter of explanation, this is something that it's really important for your application. It's basically what you write to the immigration officer, explaining them why you have chosen this program, how beneficial it would be, and the reason why you want to study in Canada and not your home country, and what are the responsibilities as a student you have, and how beneficial would it be once you complete the program, how beneficial it would be for you to return home, and would it be beneficial or not. All right, I would like to invite Kainaz and to talk a little more about the letter of explanation and her experience with dealing with you know all our students who have applied through One Moscow.
Thank you. Thank you, Julian. I'll elaborate a bit about the letter of explanation. This is commonly known as letter of intent, personal statement, letter of explanation. It's all different words to mean the same thing. Essentially, the purpose of this is to convince IRCC, the Canadian authorities, that you are a genuine student, that the course you have chosen to study is going to be beneficial to you in your future plans. It aligns completely with your future vision. You have the affordability for it. You justify that you need it in the sense your previous education or academic background, your work experience, and how this ties in with your new course. Everything should be in alignment, and there should be some explanation offered for the officer to understand why you have selected this course. A poorly written letter of explanation often results in a refusal if they don't see any connection or any correlation, if they see no justification for you choosing this program. They do not offer you an approval because they think your purpose to study is not genuine. So I cannot elaborate enough on the importance of a letter of explanation. How we handle this for you is we have a format where we give an introduction, academic background, professional background, and things like that. And then we invite you to fill in those details, and then we edit it for you, and then we give you a finished product. Over to you, Julian.
Thank you so much, Kainaz. All right, so moving on to our next slide would be the student direct stream. Now, many of you guys know that the student direct stream, it's a process of acquiring a study permit faster than a usual international student. It often correlates to lower refusal rates. It doesn't mean that hey, if I don't submit my application through the student direct stream, would I be refused? No. So here, the benefits of applying through the student direct stream, eligible countries, we have 14 countries that fall under the category of applying through the student direct stream here. Now, the most important criteria to apply through the SDS process would be you need to have a guaranteed investment certificate, which is of 10,000 Canadian dollars. Is basically you need to deposit 10,000 Canadian dollars into a Canadian bank, which will be given back to you once you're in Canada every month or weekly basis. Now, the next thing would be to pay your first year's tuition fee, and the receipt should be updated to Immigration Canada, or it should be reflect on your letter of explanation. Third point would be a language proficiency test, or like IELTS. You should secure 6 and above in each band, not your overall score, but 6 and above in each band. I would like to invite Kainas to talk a little more about the Student Direct Stream program here.
Thank you. So for citizens who come from 14 countries as listed below under eligible countries can opt for an STS route. However, you need to also be a resident of that country. So for instance, if you're an Indian and you're staying in the UAE with your family, you can't opt for the STS route. However, if you are applying for a regular non-STS route from one of those eligible countries, that's absolutely accepted as well. You may have one or two things missing which prohibits you from opting for an SDS route. They don't mind that, they accept it, which means, let's say you don't have all in this combination: IELTS, 10,000, first year fees, last academic transcripts, upfront medical. If you don't have this, but you have 3 or 4 out of 5, it's better than not having anything. So even though you're not doing an SDS, but if you have an IELTS, or you've chosen to pay your fees on your own, or you have still chosen to have a GIC account, it's all an advantage. What it means is you were financially ready, you had the financial capability, you had the English proficiency, you were medically fit, so you don't necessarily have to have all the conditions. You can have a few, or you can even be neither. But what determines the difference between actually complying with all requirements and opting for the SDS is there are two things. It's considered a stronger case if you can utilize an SDS if you come from those countries, and it is known to be quicker than a general regular route. But the outcome is impartial. They will still look at your case as a whole. They're not going to be partial just to SDS cases.
Thank you, Kainas.
This is our company, which Julian has just shown the first of my slide. Our company is known as a One Vasco, which stands for Value Added Services. One Vasco is a concierge visa support service for all international students, be it Canada, UK, wherever. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of VFS Global. VFS Global, as you know, is one of the largest visa outsourcing companies to government missions across the world. VFS Global has 63 client governments, which means if you need to apply for a visa to any of these 63 countries, you are most likely entering a visa application center to give your biometrics or to support your application to a VFS office. That is the VFS Global background. And One Vasco is the wholly owned subsidiary of VFS Global, which has branched out into exclusively catering for student visas. What we do under the scope of our work, we have brought it down into a tree with branches. How we will support you: we will complete your application form filling, your document review and compliance check, which means we will look at your documents and even strategize with you, give you options and solutions, whether these documents are what IRCC thinks fit for an approval, or you need to enhance your funds, bring in a sponsor, all of that. So it is not an administrative task. It is a thinking, strategizing, critical thinking task that we do for you. We then, after we've submitted all your documents on the portal, the IRCC portal, we upload your documents for you. We then share the link for you to pay for your visa. We then also take your biometrics appointment online for you once you are done. What I have missed out is the drafting of all your consent letters and your personal statements. So anything that requires drafting assistance, that statement of purpose. Along with that, there is one more letter called the financial sponsor letter. It is one-page financial cover letter that gives the officer in 60 seconds a bird's eye view of what your financial health is. It's a simplified little letter explaining where the funds are held, who's sponsoring you, and what is their annual income. So there are 2 letters attached to every application, and we draft both of these for you. The next slide has a detailed list of what we exactly do. I'll read it out for you. There are 3 application forms in every Canada visa application. We'll fill all those 3 forms for you. We will do all your document review, and we will compile all your folders. They have to be compressed to 4 MB without compromising on the resolution. So there is removing documents, adding documents, recompressing, uploading. A little bit of IT work goes into it. We do all of that for you. We then make your actual government portal. We create your account on the portal. Once we have done the compliance check, we start uploading these documents for you. As I mentioned earlier, drafting of both letters, your cover letter, financial cover letter, and your personal statement. Your personal statement is personal only to you. It's your story to tell, but we want to help you tell that story effectively, which is suitable for a Canadian officer to understand that you have met every criteria to justify the reason why you have chosen this course. We are IRCC regulated represented for Canada, where there is a license for you to give immigration advice. We have that license. Your biometrics appointment is done as well. Each one gets a designated visa support manager. So when you join us, you will be assigned a case manager whom you will communicate over email, WhatsApp. There could probably be a few consultation calls with your case manager. They will take your case from start to finish and do it for you. So each one is assigned one. We also help you on weekends and after hours because of different time zones and availability if you're working. So we're quite flexible. We will adjust to your requirements. That is the benefit of not having to walk into an agent's office, sit in the old-fashioned way with your file and get an agent to look at it. Everything is online for Canada. Everything is done soft copy based, which is why you can just share your documents with us in a similar manner over email. Last but not the least, as I said, this is completely remotely offered. Gone are those old-fashioned days. So any time zone, anytime, everything can be done remotely. So this is the scope of what we offer you for your student visa support service. The charges are $250 to provide the service. We are officially contracted and partnered with Trebas University to offer you this visa support service if you so desire to opt for it.
Thank you so much, Kainas. So, guys, if you guys would like to, you know, seek assistance from One Vasco, please do feel free to reach out to myself or Aisha or your student recruiter. We would be more than happy to share out the information on how to contact One Vasco. As Kaina said, they charge $250 to process your application. So what I would recommend our students, if you're not confident enough to submit your application on your own, please seek assistance from an immigration consultant like One Vasco, who would be helpful in getting your application submitted. It's always good to have another set of eyes on your application rather than submitting your application when you have a doubt in your mind, right? So moving on, we're going to talk about accommodation and student life. All right, now accommodation. Now you've submitted your application to Immigration Quebec, you received your CAQ approval letter, then you submitted your documents to Immigration Canada. You waited for 9 to 10 weeks. We received an approval. You have your visa in your hand. Now the next thing would be to get your accommodation and your insurance in place. Now there are many options available for students living off campus and on their own. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. Kanaz and Garima, are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, yes. There was a bit of a glitch in between, but you're back.
Yep.
All right, great. So I'm so sorry about that. There's a bit of a technical issue that's going on. So, like I was talking about accommodation. So we at Trebas, we are partnered with Campus One. It's a 5-minute walking distance from our campus. Now, please do not write down the link and everything. Once you have your study permit approval, Aisha and myself, we would share your next steps, basically how to get your accommodation, how to apply for your insurance, and what else you would need to do post your visa approval. Now, you can always feel free to contact our student services team, who would be more than happy to help you out in seeking, accommodation and guidance on your insurance as well. That information would be shared out by Aisha and myself post receiving your visa approval. All right, moving on, we are going to talk about insurance. We at Travis, we have two insurances that we offer. One is Alliance and Study Insured that you can get your insurance from. Now, please do make sure that once you have your study permit approval, we recommend all our students to get their insurance from either Alliance or Study Insured. Now, if you do not want to use insurance from Study Insured or Alliance, you need to make sure that if you're getting an insurance, it should be from a Canadian company only. Preferably, we recommend all our students to acquire the insurance prior to traveling to Canada. So you travel with your insurance, because we may not know what would happen. It could be that the immigration officer at the immigration desk might ask you, do you have your insurance handy with you at this moment since you're traveling? And you're like, no, I'd get it later. So, and that might be an issue. So it's always best, to travel with your insurance. And please do share a copy of your insurance and your flight details with us once you have them handy, because we need to send that to our admissions team. Insurance is the most important because that helps you in starting your classes and getting you enrolled for your classes. All right, we move on. The next one would be if you have any questions. So Garima, you can take over from here.
Yes, hi Julian. Yes, there are a certain few questions in the background. The most common question is why about the delay in getting letter of acceptances from us. Guys, please allow us at least 5 to 7 business days to get back to you with any kind of changes that you're requesting for, be it deferrals, or if you've made a payment and you need the letter of acceptance, then give us some time, because there's large volume that we are dealing with. So, but we are trying to take care of all requests between 5 to 7 working days. Julian, there's a very specific question here. So let's see if we can answer it. The question is about CAQ.
Sure.
Can I fill it on my computer and sign it digitally, which is the same sign that is on the passport, or does he have to print it and sign it with hand?
Okay. So the first thing is, when you're applying for your CAQ, you need to make sure you use a computer, because the CAQ application, sometimes it does not work on a tablet or a mobile device, or you would not be able to see the complete content of the website. Now, the second part about the digitally signing the document, we recommend it would be better if you take a printout and sign the document rather than doing a digital sign, because I've noticed one of my students, he signed the document and uploaded it to Immigration Canada, which was pretty much the same signature on his passport. However, they did send him intent of refusal, basically saying that we would refuse your application if you do not submit a signature declaration form again.
Okay. Another question, Julian Kainas, if you can take this up. The visa application, does it cover study permit? I think
Yes.
we need to explain what a visa is, what a study permit is.
So Canada has two types of visas. It's called the temporary resident visa and also a study permit. So when you're applying as a student, you're putting in an application for a study permit, but by default, you have also applied for a resident permit. What you then get, so you've done both applications simultaneously by default. When you get your visa approved, you get a temporary resident permit sticker on your passport and provisional study permit approval. When you land at the port of entry in Canada, the airport authorities will then grant you a paper A4 size study permit in your hand. So you will have a sticker as well as a study permit visa at the port of entry.
Okay, thank you, Kainas. Another question here is, so many questions related to CAQ. Someone saying, explain the CAQ process again. So I think, guys, that...
Can I jump in here? We
Yes.
are going to do the CAQ process for the students who opt for the visa support. We do that for the student. We look after it.
Amazing. So if students are working with, guys, if you're working with One Vasco, you will get the support of applying for CAQ as well. And additionally, if you're already working with Julian and Aisha, they can also give you all the information you need on applying for a CAQ. So I will reach out to you, ask for your student ID, so see who is working with you, either Julian or Aisha, and I'll ask them to connect with you. Going through the process again is going to be, I think, everybody might not want that on the webinar, and we have quite a few attendees. Okay, next question. Do you have to pay for a CRF? No, guys, remember CRF is an internal term that we use, which is change request form, CRF. It is basically when you are changing your intake, changing your program, we will submit the CRF for you. You don't have to do it. You just have to tell us that, okay, Garima, I couldn't get my study permit or I couldn't get my documents in time for January intake. I want to move to April. I want to move to July. Tell us. We will do it for you and give you the revised documents. You don't have to pay for any kind of change requests. So please don't worry. Another student is asking, we're already at the beginning of February. Can they apply for April or is it too late?
They can.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is sometimes you do get your visa in a month. If they don't, and they do get after the April intake has passed, we just have to upload the next intake's offer letter on the IRCC portal. And when the study permit comes, it's for the entire duration of the course anyway. So they can use the same visa for the next intake.
Right. Okay, excellent. Can you please elaborate on internship opportunities? Yes, so like we mentioned at the beginning, there is a career services department that works with students. From the beginning, it is always good to be aware of what the department can do for you and what is your role to play. As a student, we try to create opportunities for you. But what you do with that opportunity is absolutely up to you, So there is no internship or job on a platter. It doesn't work like that. So there's hard work required from the student side, and we equally put in the same effort to support you. So look at it as something that you will need to work on. How you work on your subjects, you work on, towards getting a better score. The same way you need to work on building your skill that makes you ready for the job market. Are you ready for an interview? Is your resume prepared? Is your profile, are you building your profile constantly so that when that opportunity comes to face your employer, you're absolutely ready? So that's the way to look at it. We'll provide you the support, but the hard work needs to come from students. Does CAQ require for Toronto campus? So does Toronto require CAQ? I can answer that. No. It's only for Montreal. You need a CAQ and then study permit. Toronto, direct study permit. Another question about CAQ. Somebody is saying they have already submitted the documents. The signature on passport and the signature on declaration form is slightly different. Can they update the document?
Yes, they can actually update their document. What I would recommend is you can reach out to Immigration Quebec and let them know about the difference between the signature or this a bit of a mismatch from the declaration form and the passport. I think that they should take that into consideration. Else they can go ahead and re-upload the document. However, at this moment, if you try to upload the document back into the ARIMA portal, you might not be able to do it because once the documents are submitted, you do not have the option to re-upload them. So you'd have to reach out to Immigration Quebec and let them know, and then they would give you access to re-upload it.
Okay. From Martin, we have a question. Please, could you elaborate on the financial support document and how much is required to fulfill the financial conditions?
Okay, I'll take this up very quickly because I don't think we have much time. The minimum one needs to show is the first year tuition fees. If you have paid X amount, then you should have the balance to cover the first year fees. 10,000 Canadian dollars is what they count towards living. This is the bare minimum that you need to have in a savings account. And if you have more than 1 year course duration, then you need to demonstrate affordability for the balance course, which should come from maybe an annual income of a sponsor.
Thank you, Kainas. The rest of the questions are more about CAQ. Guys, when you have very specific questions where you feel like your document could have gone wrong or something, reach out to Julian, Aisha, reach out to the One Vasco team. Don't sit with questions about CAQ and study permit. Get help, get it sorted, because processing times are so unpredictable that we need to get moving now. Another point that I want to definitely touch upon, which Julian and Kainas have already stressed upon, is financial readiness. We have so many student cases. Students pay $250, they apply for CAQ and study permit, they get refused. The biggest reason for refusal, not financially prepared. Then we go back, we again ready ourselves, we reapply. And remember, the tuition fees that you pay in advance is completely refundable, except for $250. It's fully refundable if your study permit gets refused. So why do you want it to get refused? Apply for a study permit properly. But I will let Kainas and Julian also talk to you about financial readiness just as the last bit, because I can see so many questions coming in. Financial readiness, how much do I need? What do I do? Is it really important? Can it impact my application? So over to you guys.
It's the most important part of an application. I would recommend at least 2 semester fees, 50% of the first year fees, if not more. If that commitment is there towards the fees, it clearly shows genuineness and pure intentions to study, and you are prepared, you have planned for this, and there is a genuine interest in obliging and complying with the fee requirement. I strongly recommend at least 2 semesters or half-year fees should be paid off. The balance can be shown in the form of balance in the savings account.
Absolutely. Absolutely right, Kanas. I also would encourage my students, once you have applied for your CAQ, you have 20 working days, to get all your documents ready. So if you please go ahead and make a payment for your tuition fees, we can get you the letter of acceptance, the updated one, and the payment receipt that reflects your payment that you have done. And you'd have everything in your hand ready. With at the moment you receive your CAQ approval, you can go ahead and submit your application to Immigration Canada. So it would be really helpful because personally, uh, my journey with as a student support officer, what I've noticed is many of my students have been rejected based off the financial readiness. And the moment they get a refusal, they're like, hey, you know what, why do I have a refusal? I've already have a letter of acceptance. But uh, your proof of funds or what income you're showing Immigration Canada is something that they keenly look into.
Yes, thank you, Julian. Thanks, Kainas. Also, able to make payment. Student, I'm not sure if I'm very clear on this question, but let me ask. Maybe you guys are pros, you will know. I wanted to ask, this is from Siddiq Abu Bakar. I wanted to ask if it is very likely to be refused the CAQ when you're unable to make payment for the recommended 25% of the tuition fees. Basically, they're asking if CAQ and financial readiness is related, or study permit and financial readiness.
Study permit, so to speak.
Yeah. The CAQ, you don't need to show any proof of funds. It's only if required. You get a pre-populated checklist of what documents you need to submit. Generally, it's just three: the letter of acceptance, passport, and the declaration form. But if there's an additional document stating that you need to show proof of funds, then you would need to submit it. Else, you don't need to.
Right. Somebody's asking, what if you have a sponsor? I think this has already been answered. Even if you have a sponsor, then the sponsor needs to prove that they are financially ready, right?
Absolutely, but the sponsor needs to be related to you in some way or form. If it is a distant family member, or if it is someone you're not biologically related to, then the intentions may be questioned. Therefore, in such a case, you do show documents of the sponsor, but we recommend the sponsor physically transfer the required funds into your account for that time period to demonstrate that his intentions to sponsor you are there.
Okay, thank you. And I know we are out of time, but just a few more, maybe one of the last one or two questions. When applying for a visa, there's a section that asks if we would be required to work during our study. How do we?
Yes,
How do we answer this?
This is only applicable if it is a co-op work permit, only for that. So if you have a co-op work permit, you would get a co-op work permit letter as part of your letter of acceptance, and that is uploaded in a separate field in your study permit application form, and thus you get a co-op study work permit at the same time. Other work like part-time student jobs is not correlated at all with your study permit visa.
Okay. How much time does it take? Okay, so guys, I'll just explain sometime back. Your processing time for documents right now is about 5 to 7 working days. So please don't count Saturdays and Sundays. So if you've submitted something, paid an amount, submitted a change request, say on a Wednesday, give us at least 5 to 7 working days. That means Friday of the next week is when we should be able to get back to you with whatever you've requested for. Please be patient. The team is working extremely hard to ensure that we get back to you with whatever you require. In terms of one Vasco, Kainas, could you tell us if a student makes a payment, how soon will they be contacted by one Vasco so that students are clear and expectations are clear?
Sure. So the process, how it works in our internal protocol between Trebas and us, you first reach out to your institute. They will give you a consent form to sign. You're still dealing with Trebas at the moment. Once they have given, you have signed your consent form with them, you will then get a link to pay for our services again from the institution. The link will be sent to you from the institution and it comes into your own email ID. You pay $250, but that reflects to us. So we see a successful transaction in our book of records. You get a welcome email within the first 24 hours. You will get an introduction email from your case manager in the first 24 hours. And then mutually you set up a time to have a conversation, which could be, if it's a weekend, maybe the following Monday or Tuesday.
Right, yes. And again, I'm seeing a lot of questions about how many bank statements should we provide, if that can be answered quickly.
There is no limit as long as they belong to you and your sponsor, and it should be a business current account. A business current account is not considered savings. There will be volatile fluctuations based on business needs. Only a savings account is what they look at. Therefore, it could be your father's, mother's, yours, your siblings, a biological aunt, uncle. It can be as many as you want who are genuinely interested in sponsoring you.
Okay. And I think, again, there are some questions which are getting repeated. A student is saying, I've got my intake, my May intake is what they are looking at. He's yet to submit CAQ. He's going to do it this week. Should he just go ahead and do CAQ for May, or should he go for September, October?
No, definitely go for me. He just might be doing it.
Yeah. Okay. I know, guys, sorry, I promised last few, I feel like let's answer these questions. Is there any time frame for the money to be in your account to apply for visa?
Not really, but they want to go back 4 months, as in bank statements for 4 months. So if you're showing your parents' salary accounts, they would like to see at least 4 months of salary hitting their bank account.
All right, thank you. Rest, guys, I'm going to put the general info email in the chat. Everybody will have access to it. It's info@trebas.com, info@trebas.com. Please feel free to send in your questions over there. I handle that account and I'll be more than happy to answer questions, or I will direct you to the right team member who can answer. But I think at this point, we're going to close the webinar. Thank you so much for attending. We loved your questions. Keep them coming, send them to us. You know who your advisors are, info@trebas.com. And yes, thank you so much. Thanks, Julian. Thanks, Kainas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was such a pleasure. And we're looking forward to assisting all Trebas students get a positive outcome for May and September.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.